How soccer connects the world. Early evidence of soccer being played as a sport finds occurrence in China during the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC. In China, it was during the Han Dynasty that people dribbled leather balls by kicking it into small nets. Recorded facts also support that the Romans and the Greeks used to play ball for fun. During the 20th century, soccer became more widespread. In 1930, the first ever World Cup was held in Uruguay. Uruguay, the host country, also was the first team to ever win a World Cup over arch-rival and neighbor Argentina. As we look at this graph, you can see the teams that how many times they have made the World Cup. Brazil, as you see on the top, has yet to miss a World Cup since the World Cup began. How soccer stopped World War I. Both great powers decided to allow both sides to celebrate Christmas Day. By morning, the foreboding wasteland stretched between battle lines, the famed no man's land, had become sacred ground, as both sides met in the middle to exchange whiskey, jam, chocolates, and other small luxuries. For 24 hours, snowflakes fell gently, silently, and the smiles and the laughter of soldiers. By some grand design, someone brought out a soccer ball. During these meetings, all across the Western Front, the scene was repeated over and over again. The soldiers made a soccer field out of whatever they could find available at the time. They say that the German team won, but the score really did not matter. For one day, sport united a fractured, war-torn world of violence. When night fell and the games ended, no one knew how to say goodbye. As we look at next, the Pele the Magnificent. For those of you who do not know, Pele was the greatest soccer player who has ever lived. He was the Michael Jordan of soccer, but he's more famous than Michael Jordan. He's also the only player in the world that has ever won 3 World Cups. Pele, as you can see, he played for his home country, Brazil, but also Santos, his club team. Santos would travel around visiting countries so that the whole world could see Pele play. When Santos made a trip to Nigeria, Nigeria was in the midst of a civil war. Both sides in the civil war held a ceasefire for 2 days so that both political sides could come see Pele, the greatest player on earth, play and see him go. Can one man stop a war? One tried. His name was Didier Drogba. Drogba is a forward for the Ivory Coast, and he and his teammates propelled them to their first World Cup ever. Drogba asked his war-torn Civil War country that please let there be a ceasefire for the first time in 5 years to watch their nation come together and play in a World Cup. Drogba was successful in this, bringing his team. Another act of incredible strength was USA versus Iran showdown. This was during the 1998 World Cup. Both sides had very hostile, intense negotiations with each other's governments. Really did not like each other. But before the match, both teams showed the greatest sportsmanship exemplified to both their hostile governments, that football is not politics. The players presented each other with flowers and gifts, and the team picture was taken together. This is the power of soccer over politics. When countries don't solve their problems as well as the U.S. and Iran did. In 1969, El Salvador and Honduras were playing for a qualifying game to see who would make it to the World Cup in Mexico. During this qualifying game, there were some very high-strung bad calls, Both teams were very frustrated. In the end, El Salvador and Honduras went to war for 100 hours. 6,000 lives were lost, and was one of the more ugly soccer events ever known. Can sport lead to peace? In a 1973 article by Richard Sipes in the journal American Anthropologist distilled the debate into two simple but contrasting arguments. One is that combative sport and war substitute for aggressive behavior, that the presence of sports is a healthy way for people to discourage their competitive urges. The other is that sports induce a warlike attitude, abetting conflict rather than reducing it. We saw great examples of both of these between Drogba making peace and the 100-hour war between El Salvador and Honduras. What soccer means to me? Soccer means teamwork. Teamwork is everybody working together to achieve a common goal. Also, soccer is inspiration. You get inspiration by your teammates and how well they're playing, and you feed off them. Excitement. Soccer is a non-stop for 45 minutes. The ball's always moving, and it's never out of play. In victory, soccer needs someone to win and someone to lose to make sure it is still the greatest sport there is on the. Now, can we connect the world with soccer? Former German Foreign Prime Minister Josch Fischer recently declared that once the World Cup starts, a football will become the symbol of the world. What if the World Cup could stand for more than just soccer? What if we could get the World Cup to stand for peace among all countries in the world? Thank you.